So this is the features. Features are divided into, I mean, I have a lot of features here, but they are mostly duplicates. And in this one, I am trying to automate Amazon.com. So here, if you see, I have scenarios to validate search results. I have scenario to do something, maybe order link or something. I click on returns and order links, I get some sign-in page, or validate the pay link and cart link and all those things. But then I have these repetitions of the scenarios, because I think I was trying to run them in parallel to showcase like how multiple test cases run. But primarily they are in total 4 or 5 test cases. Other are just to duplicate. Then if I go and show you the pom.xml file. Here I'm using the Selenium Java version. This is a bit old, 3.4141. Right now we are in the force version 4.x.x. So this is old, but then we are using Cucumber. When you are using TestNG with Cucumber, so whenever you want to use Cucumber, you want to use it with something, some runner or some JUnit or some sort of Java framework. So JUnit is one of the Java executor or runner, or TestNG is another one. So we are using this Cucumber with TestNG. Then here I'm using something called as Juice, right? So Google Juice is a dependency injection framework, which we understood last time. If you remember, we had this discussion with you, and there was this guy called as Saurabh. So we tried to go through this concept of dependency injection. So there were multiple dependency injection framework. One is Pico Container, which is the easiest and simplest. Second best is Juice, and third is which is a bit more, maybe an overkill, called as Spring Boot or Spring dependency injection. Maybe we don't go that direction basically, but I liked Google Juice more because it is a mix of both worlds. Pico Container is too minimalistic, and Spring Boot maybe is an overkill. But then Google Juice is just right, in my opinion. Then we had to do Google Juice along with Google Juice dependency, so they have to go hand in hand. Okay, so this is a Cucumber binding of Google Juice. It's called as binding, basically. So what Cucumber has done is they have brought in this framework, open source framework from Google, and then created something of its own with it. And that's why we have two dependencies here. One is the Google Juice, and the next one is the Cucumber Juice, basically. So this one is coming from Cucumber team itself. This is coming from the Google. Then I'm using this library called as Lombok. Lombok is a very important library for reducing boilerplate code. I'll show you an example of it, but just to understand, you don't have to create getter and setters. You don't have to create constructors. You don't have to create any builders. So it takes care of all those things. You won't see the additional line of code for those. It will just be there, automatically being injected by Lombok. Just for example, because we are on this topic, so if I go here and open any of these files, for example, I'm using this log statements, right? Log.debug. But if you know in Java, if there is any object, it has to be created, right? But if you see anywhere in this class, there is no such log object being created here. Why? Because Lombok has automatically created it. The moment I say log4j2, which is coming from this Lombok library, the moment I do this, it automatically injects this object, and then I can use it. Okay. One thing is very important for Lombok to work, or for this to during the time you're writing the code, there is no error being thrown here. The reason for that is, for Lombok to work, you need to install. If you're using IntelliJ, then you have to go to settings, and you have to go to plugins, and you have to install this Lombok plugin as well. Yeah, this one. Okay, this is not for the runtime. Runtime, if you're just using Maven clean install, all this is not needed at all. This is just needed if you don't want it to throw some sort of error here itself. Otherwise, it will throw. But if you're just using Maven, then this is not required. Maven will automatically, while it is going to build, it's going to take care of all the things. Only while you are doing this, then it's important. Otherwise, no need for this plugin, Lombok plugin. Another example for that could be maybe if I go.
One thing, Akash, here, log.debug you had written, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So why debug? I mean, log.text or log.info
So when you say log dot,
kind of.
so when you say log dot, you get some levels of information which you want to put it, right? So when you say log dot debug, log dot trace, log dot warn, or info, right? Let me show the so many debug methods. Then you have a lot of error methods. Then you have fatal methods. Then you have info methods. Okay, the usefulness of this is you want to understand or classify your messages into different levels. Some messages you want to show only or every time. Some message you only want to show when you really want to debug something not working. So then you can disable or enable those log messages. So for example, if I have two messages here, log.info,
Got it, yeah.
okay, or I have written something here, and you would want that this message clicked on something, right? You want this message to be shown only when you have this setting. So when you want to say my debug level, my level is debug, right? Or I say my level is info. And when you have this setting and when everything is running, then what will happen is this message will not be printed at all.
Okay.
Only info will be printed.
Got it, yeah.
Okay, and if you say, let's say debug,
Yeah,
then both message will be printed.
Okay.
Okay, so you can, because debug is the lowest level. Debug, then comes error, trace, debug, then you get info. So error, fatal. If you have something where you have marked it as fatal, this will always be printed, no matter what your settings are here. Error always be printed, and you of course you throw it when you see an error. When you get an exception somewhere, you throw an error basically, right?
Right.
But then you can classify them based on these levels. So debug is the lowest level. If you are saying this is the level as info, so all the level below it, so debug, trace, all the messages will be printed. But if you simply say debug, that means you have reduced the level, then only debug and trace will be printed. I mean, this is like this is how it works in different levels. If you choose the higher level, so all the levels, all the messages below that level will also be printed.
Got it.
Okay, something like that. So this is very handy when you want to customize or you want to reduce the level of logs which your users are seeing. Because if you print everything, each and everything, then the log size will be so big, then it's very hard to debug some certain things. If you just want to restrict, if everything is fine, then you only want to print the info messages. Then just change the setting here. Change the setting here in this file log4j.xml, and then only those messages will be printed which you want to see, and all the lower level messages will not be printed. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
So I will remove this line from here, right? So this log4j and all takes care of that. So this is a log, basically object which is being injected. If I take another example here, no, nothing here. Another step depths, anything here which I can show? I don't think so. Yeah, maybe here. Huh? So for example, I wanted to create getter and setters for this. Usually, how would you create a getter setter, right? So you'll say public scenario get scenario, right? This will become the getter, right? And setter will be public setter. So these two are additional lines, isn't it? I mean, I have to write them unnecessarily. They are not providing any sort of logic or anything. It's just I have to, because I need getter setters, I have to do like this. Huh? So to avoid this kind of code, I can just say getter and setter, and my Lombok will automatically generate this at runtime for me. Okay, so these lines are automatically generated by my Lombok library, this one. Okay, and this is the advantage of Lombok, and it's very, very recommended way of writing your Java code. So that if I keep on writing get and set, let's say I have 10 objects here, if I keep on writing for all of them, it will be huge. This Excel file, this class file will become huge.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think when you were developing it, I saw your framework. You had to do all this. You were doing it multiple times. Lot of getter and setters you created. So it's not recommended thing. It will additionally create the unclean code for you.
Yeah.
So to avoid this, you do use Lombok and use getter and setters, huh?
Sure. Okay.
Next thing
I
here.
think can we do one thing? I mean, whatever advanced topics here, shall we implement same in our previous project? I mean, this Swag Labs one.
Yes, we were doing that there.
Okay. Okay.
We used Lombok there also. If I can open that project, I think that one was in my Visual Studio Code. Let me see.
Now, if we follow that one, so it will be good
Yeah,
for
we have it there.
Yeah.
Okay, we have it there also. Okay, so that was for Lombok. Then I go back here to my pom.xml file. Okay. Now these two. So right now, what I'm walking you through is what is the bare minimum you need to do in a Java framework or Java test automation framework for that to be called as a standard framework. Otherwise, if you miss any of these things, it will still work, but it cannot be called as a good framework or cannot be called as a well maintainable. I mean, you will eventually have a lot of problems if you don't use few of these things. Okay. So I'm telling you like what is the bare minimum you need to do. So we have discussed about Selenium because you need it for UI testing. I'm telling you about Cucumber because you need it for writing BDD scenarios, behavior-driven development way of or style of writing scenarios. We're talking about TestNG because we want to use TestNG for parallel executions and all. It comes with and Cucumber requires some sort of runner. So either you will use JUnit or you use TestNG. I'm using TestNG here. Google Juice I'm using for dependency injection. Lombok I'm using for removing the code, unnecessary boilerplate code. This I'm using for extend reports, for generation of the reports. This is coming from another company, not company, like it's a library called as Grasshopper. They have created this Cucumber 6 and extend reports adapters so that you don't have to, do a lot of things, and it takes care of a lot of what do you call it, injectors maybe, where it will just automatically integrate with your Cucumber scenarios and generate the report for you. Don't have to write any additional code for the report generation. So all that is taken care by this kind of plugin, Grasshopper plugin or extend reports Cucumber 6 adapter. Then you have AssertJ. This is used for assertions, right? There are many options available. You can use JUnit assertion library, you can use TestNG assertion library, you can use Hemcrest assertion library, or you can use AssertJ assertion library. So mostly people use either of these four, either JUnit or TestNG or Hemcrest or AssertJ. AssertJ being, I think, a bit more famous and have more features. So that's what we are using here. Log4j we just discussed because we wanted to use Log4j. Owner API, maybe not so much of importance. I mean, people do their configuration differently. This is being used somewhere for reading the property files and converting those property files into some sort of object model. It's used for that, but I will not go into detail of this. That is not really what is very important. A simple property file will also work basically. So let's not go there. And this one is, I think I did for you once, like for Excel and all. But Excel is not a feature of a framework. Excel is an extension of a framework, right? So if you want to have Excel functionality also within it, you can kind of integrate your Excel things and do all those things. But it is not a core concept of how a Cucumber framework works.
Okay.
So what I told you so far is the core concepts of how a bare minimum principles or things which you need to have in your Java project for your BDD based framework. Okay, what else do we have? Then we have feature files, right? You need to have feature files, and then you need to have a step definition files. I think till this point we already covered, right? So we created feature
Yes.
files, we had step definition files, and then in step definition files, then we have page object model files, right? And there we were defining the objects like this at the top, and then we were created interaction methods below, like actual operations which you want to do on those elements. So we created them below. Let me also open that in parallel. So if I go and open the project which we are working on.
Last time you said we need to discuss on this one, injectors.
Yes, dependency injection part. Yes. So
Yes.
let's see that. So what I want now is that whatever we are creating in a separate project, it has to be in align with what I'm showing you right now.
Okay.
What I'm showing you is a target state. Let's take or call this as a target state. What I was doing earlier was a very basic rudimentary state, something which is not fully developed. So that is where we are, and we want to move from there to this point, so that we learn good ideas and good concepts of how a framework should be created. I don't know why it's hanged now. Wait, I'm opening that one. I don't know, it's hanged. Wait. Okay. I don't know why. We close all the additional items. Okay. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, it's not working the way I want it to work. It's all slow. I don't know what's happening, Satya. Okay, so I will actually do this in Visual Studio Code. That IntelliJ is really misbehaving.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was showing earlier was this is the one I'm talking about. It's called as Test Auto Framework Template with Cucumber Test NG. It is kept here. Huh? So if I open, this is what I was talking about earlier, and the example which we were doing last time was here. Okay, so if I open this one, and originally you were asking, right, that what are we using? Sorry, the log4j. No, what you were asking earlier? Yeah, Lombok, right? So you see, we are using Lombok. Yeah, so we are using that here. I don't know if you're using it. Yeah, I don't know if you're using it somewhere for the logs. And you see, we are using log4j to here also. You see log.debug and all those things. So we are using that as well. But yeah, so what I was trying to say is this is something which how we started test automation for people in hurry. This is how we were started, but I want this as a rudimentary step or a work in progress, and we want to go from here to create our framework which would look like this, which is test automation template with Cucumber and test engine. This is basically what we want to do. Now to do that, and that's the reason I am explaining you all these things here, that we need Cucumber, we need Selenium, we need this, and we need AssertJ, we need log4j, we need Lombok. Okay, and then we need to reorganize the way we are creating our step definitions. We have to reorganize the way we are creating our page object models. Okay, and let's talk about that now. So if you see the way we were creating our step def files was that, what is this ABCD? Let me remove that. So we are creating the objects like this or defining it there, and we had the hooks here, and we have the step definition files here, something like that. And the way we were writing our page object model files were like this. We say it's plain vanilla page object model files. And the way we were doing was also very straightforward, where we saying driver.find elements. We are still using find elements and all. So this was a page object model, not the page factory way of doing it. I don't know if we created the page factory also, right? So next way, other way of doing that, the same thing, right? So this is like landing page. Page object model looks like this, where you have defined things here, and then you use driver.find elements to locate the elements and perform operations. Page factory is a product or offering from Selenium team itself. And instead of creating your page object model file like this, you create it using page factory. So you can then use annotations to identify or put the locators values, and then you use page factory.init elements to initialize your elements, and then you simply use the name and perform operations on those web elements. So this is how you can reduce. You see, this is reducing the amount of code which you had to write, and this is also very fault tolerant, bit more performant perhaps, and your some boilerplate code also gets reduced. So a lot of less keystrokes basically. If you compare these two files here, to do all those things, there you don't have to, and maybe a bit more performant as well. So better way of writing page object model file is using page factory. Okay, so that is how you can do. Now what is still missing here is what is
this two ways only currently?
Yes,
this page factory and the
yes, there could be different flavors of it, but primarily these are the two ways.
Okay.
People do it in very, very different ways. If you give them opportunity to do something, they will do it, right? So for example, you wanted to say, I want to keep these two things separately, right? Now that's your flavor. You'll say, no, I don't want to keep it together. I want to keep it separately. Then you keep it separately. Okay, so it's up to people what they want, because end of the day, it's still Java. You can do a lot of things in Java, so you can divide them into two and do whatever you want to do with it, right? But my suggestions is always try to see how others are doing it, how the original experts on these things are doing it, because if they are doing it in a certain way, they have a valid reason why they are doing it in a certain way, and it's always advisable to follow rather than trying to reinvent your own stuff your own way because you think this is a better way and just implement it. It will eventually bite you back because you don't know what's wrong with that approach which you are doing because you are new.
Right.
So I always follow this when I learn a new tool, for example, or whenever I learned this, I followed what industry is asking me to follow. So following the existing pattern is always a good idea when you don't have much idea about how this is working, because if you keep doing or experimenting with it, most of the time experiments go wrong, and in the beginning you won't realize it because Hello World, no matter how you have coded, Hello World always works. The small project have no problems when you do what you want to do and you think it's working, but when it scale, when you add more things to it, and then eventually it bloats, and then it's hard to manage. So these kind of patterns when you use will save you from later problems. Okay, so all that gyan which I've given just now, I would suggest use page factory in the beginning and do it like this. Keep everything at same place. That's what page object model is. That it is a page object model. The definition is, by definition, it is a collection of locators and the operating methods. That's what it is. That's what page object model is. Okay, and there are two ways. So either you do it like this using driver.find elements, not very effective. If you do this, more effective. Okay, now how can we make it even better? So if you compare this with what I have originally with the target state, so we are comparing this with this. Okay, so these two we are trying to compare. So this one, okay, or maybe what I'll do is I will perhaps open this separately because to save us from confusion. Okay, VS Code. Let me open this separately. Say fine. Okay, so this is my target state, and file, new window, file, open. This will become my other state. Okay, so I want to go from here to, where it go? Page object model file. Okay, so this is the one, that's a second one. Yeah, so from here I want to make sure that I am doing some certain things in a good way. So my target state is this. So now let's see how I have written that file here. Same page object model file, how I have written. So if you notice, not much difference. I don't have a driver here at the top. That's one difference. Then I have these page object model files, locators here. I'm not using the page factory here the way I'm using here, right? Not using that. I'm still using by. Okay, fine. And then here I have this constructor where I'm injecting the driver. In this case, I'm not doing that. I'm using a keyword called as inject, and I'm injecting test context. So I'm injecting something called as test context. Okay, fine. What else I'm doing here? I was using WebDriver, and here I'm using test context. Then I'm also using something different here in terms of how I am performing operations on those objects. So here I'm using username.send keys, but here I'm using certain methods, existing methods, set element, click element, and I'm passing the name of the objects there, click element, all those things, right? So this is what is different. So three difference we have observed, right? One is the injection concept. Second is I don't have a driver here at the top. And third is I am using these reusable methods. So now let's focus first. So let's not worry about inject at the moment because it's a bit more advanced concept which we will do. Test context, maybe again we skip it for now. Let's focus on these elements, like from where these are coming. So these are coming from a parent class called as interact. So if I go here, open this, here what I have done is I have created all the reusable methods which I may need to use to perform those operations. Why it's needed? They can be very useful to standardize the way operations are being performed on your object. So once you create your page object model file, you always extend it with something called as interact. And no matter how many page object file you have, you always extend this with interact. Extension is nothing but an inheritance concept. That means whatever objects you have here, all of those objects, all the methods are now available to be used in the child class. So this is your child class, this is your parent class. It's a concept of inheritance here, okay? So, and the reason you do that is if your child class wants to use something which is there in parent class, and parent class has something which many child class want to use, then you have the interact, then you can use extends to extend the parent class into the child class. And then all the methods which are available here will be available under, all the methods which are available in the interact, all these methods will also be available in your common page object. So that's the reason I have these reusable methods which I can then use. And no matter how many page object model files I have, I can still use the same methods. And the good thing is the methods come ready with everything you want to do. So before you do the click,